itself. I'm going to get a check from my pilot to check with the control tower to see if they are allowing both departures.
when I saw this crash, and I realized the severity of it, where it had happened, I remember I told my flight instructor, "Oh, it'll they'll clear the plane pretty quick and they'll open the runway back up." I don't think that's going to be the case with this. I think that they're going to have arrivals stop quite a bit of time until they figure out what happened. And those arrivals going in John Wayne are probably going to be diverted to LAX or Ontario or something.
Omar, hang with us just a few seconds while we reset this and let our viewers who have just tuned in know what has happened. This is 10:31 right now. You're watching a special edition of Eyewitness News instead of your regular programming because of this breaking news in Orange County on the 405 Freeway South, where a Cessna 310, an aircraft, has crashed onto the freeway. We know that at least 2 people were inside that aircraft, a man and a woman. We believe them to be husband and wife. We do believe that they have critical injuries right now. No word on any fatalities in the plane or on the freeway, but it was just shocking video that we have where the plane, you can see it in the air, banking to the left, and then within seconds descending very quickly and crashing right onto the freeway and then bursting into flames. Let's watch this if we can see it and hear it.
Omar is a flight instructor and is with us right now. And one thing I just saw in that video, Omar, that I don't know, that I do not fly. I don't know enough. But it looked to me as if at the last moment the pilot tried to elevate the nose a little bit. Have you seen the video? And did you see that on his part to try to save it at the last second?
Yeah, I did see that, and I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, wow, I just saw that converse. The very last, the pilot will flare the aircraft. That means they'll raise the nose of the aircraft and try to reduce the descent rate of the aircraft. So the aircraft touches down as a safe landing speed and a descent angle. So it did look like he tried to do that and I was just as best he could. And I did notice, he really did try to avoid those cars. Whenever you're flying out there, a good pilot's always thinking about, hey, if I have an engine failure right now, where am I safely and not cause any kind of harm to people? Anybody to try to save himself or his passenger.
Okay, Omar, I want to say thanks. We're going to go ahead and wrap up this phone call. Some of it is somewhat of an effort to hear because of the cell phone, but thank you very much. You gave us a lot of perspective on what's going on. Thank you. That is Omar. He's down near John Wayne Airport, a flight instructor. One of the this plane, you can see on the right-hand side of the screen where the impact was, and then the sliding clear. Tell nose down, and at the last moment the nose came up just enough.
Yes.
That might have been what saved the people's life.
It may have been, and my father used to fly a plane like this, and as Omar said, when you're a pilot like this, you are constantly looking for places to land, especially if you're getting ready to go down. You are constantly looking. A freeway would be a place that you would want to land, even though there are cars on it, but that is a place that you may likely, the surface, be able to land, but you're constantly scanning the skies and looking for a place to land as a pilot.
Well, one of the things we're able to show you here is the traffic map there on the left, which we've clearly have an ABC section of the side that we're talking about. Both sides were affected. So if somebody in the booth has that, because I get turned around when I'm looking at this map, which side's the north, which side's the south.
So the plane is on the
northbound side.
The northbound side.
Is that accurate as we see it in the booth?
because
we're trying to
Gabrielle-
get that. We're trying to get that clarified. As we look at our Sky Map 7, you can see actually that would be the southbound side.
Plane is on the
So
southbound
the southbound side. The witnesses tell us the plane landed initially in north and bounced over into the southbound side. So if you are traveling southbound on the 405 at MacArthur, you will not want to go through that area. You'll want to avoid both sides for now, because even though the northbound side you can see is starting to get traffic through, northbound side.
Right, and also you can see that area, that blackened area on the northbound side where the plane touched down at least just a bit. You can see it right there, the blackened area, and then hopped over to the other side. That man taking pictures right there. We also have information from Orange County Global. They can confirm that multiple trauma patients are en route to OC Global Medical Center. Multiple patients. So we know of at least 2 patients, the man and the woman, we believe, according to what we know, and also to your interview that you conducted with Gabrielle just a short time ago.
She'd said that she saw those 2 people pulled from the plane. She described them as covered in blood, but there were also other injuries. Another witness, Cassie, that was with us for a while, she said there were people on the ground who were at least being treated. She did not know the severity of those injuries, didn't want to speculate. We don't want to speculate either. We have ways that we can also use here to try to help you get around this accident, because we heard from the expert, Omar. He said the FAA they're not going to move that plane anytime soon, because they have to really play this out and find out exactly what's going on. But as you look to the left of your screen there, you can see, try to find a way around this, but it's really going to be difficult. If you're traveling out of John Wayne Airport today, you need to know that this is going to affect travel. Right now, they have shut things down as far as departing flights, which are not affected, but arrivals are. So if a departing flight is not affected and you have to go to the airport, you should call ahead and see if your airline or your plane is affected. It's the 4th of July weekend.
Yes.
There are going to be a lot of people coming in, and right now, again, arrivals are closed.
That's right.
But departing flights are not.
So you're going to have to find another way to try to get to the airport to avoid this area. Meanwhile, we are going to show you a video once again and sound that you can hear of this crash as it happened. Let's take a listen.
You can hear the sound of broken glass.
Yes.
The impact itself. That video from Jose Quinteros, but we've also had video of the aftermath of several people. And one of the things that I've noticed when we've talked to the people who were there and came upon it, the emotion that they had, just the overwhelming emotion of seeing the heroic actions of people on the ground who ran to that burn. Same thing, but witnessed an elderly woman pulling a man from the plane, saying it was her husband. The 2 of them were laying on the ground when medical personnel were able to arrive. But multiple trauma patients have been taken to OC Global Medical Center, as you've said. So we know of the 2 on the plane. They were the only 2 on the plane. They were able to survive. You see this tweet here. It looks like they got out okay. They survived. However, we don't know yet the extent of those injuries.
Yes.
Adrenaline, as Omar said, adrenaline will kick in and you can do some amazing things. We hope they survive throughout this.
Yes.
But clearly that was a horrific wreck that also could have injured people on the ground.
Yes, certainly. And we do have some more information about this particular plane, the Cessna 310 with 6 seats. This plane's last event that we know of prior to today was yesterday. This plane traveled back and forth from John Wayne to Ontario and back. Okay, so John Wayne to Ontario and then back to John Wayne, this Cessna 310R. So that is what we know about this plane before it crashed today.
We are also told by an expert that this is a good plane, a reliable plane, but that is not the most current type of plane out there, and it's not necessarily used as often. But Omar, our flight instructor who was with us a few moments ago, did say that he thought this was a very good plane. Bree Winkler is in studio with us too, because what we're really, now that we've gotten the people off the plane, now that we have seen that there is a plane crash on the freeway and is really affecting the 405, which is shut down at MacArthur, Bree, this is going to affect traffic at the airport because that 405 is going to be a real mess.
Right, you better believe it. It's not only the 405 though, it's also the 55. So a lot of people take the 55 down towards John Wayne Airport, and right now it is an absolute standstill. So if you're trying to get to the airport, you're definitely going to want to take side streets, but looks like the side streets are starting to load up as well. I don't know if we can pull up Waze here, but you can see the river of red along the 55 and the 405 right now, both. So try to get off of the freeway before Culver Drive. Now, if you're going southbound from Fountain Valley towards maybe the John Wayne Airport, you're going to want to get off before, what is this, Fairview? Yeah, Fairview Road. That's where it really gets backed up. So maybe take Harbor Boulevard instead. And again, the 55 is really slammed. That's why Waze is so helpful, because you can go on these side streets, but you can see some of these side streets already starting to back up. You can see people probably trying to get off the 405, being redirected onto the Fairview Road, where we're seeing quite a bit of backup here. So through Costa Mesa, some of these side streets of 55, as you work your way around John Wayne Airport, you can see that we've got quite a few backups here. So if you can avoid this area altogether, I would highly recommend you do so. Looks like the 73 is actually a little bit better, but it's going to be a tough go. It's going to be tough to get on to the 73. So again, side streets, you might want to take MacArthur Boulevard instead. Again, hop off before Culver Drive too, because you can see that it is really backed up. So this is going to be a major concern as we head into this holiday weekend. A lot of folks heading off to the airport. Please turn on your Waze. You definitely want to avoid this area if you can, but we will bring you up to date conditions as we get them. Back to you guys.
All right, Bree, thank you very much for that. And thank you to SkyMap 7. You can see very clearly the situation there. And look at this video right here. This is you can see that man running toward the scene, and the fire and the black smoke coming from the plane. Look at the scene, people gathering around. This is firefighters getting on the scene there, and you see on the right-hand side a possible patient there being treated.
Yeah, and you also, the one thing that strikes me is how quickly airport personnel were able to get there. So it also gives you an idea as to how close to John Wayne Airport this was. Apparently, there was an emergency on takeoff, and the pilot was maybe, we're speculating at this point, but trying to make it back to the airport and get landed safely. That did not happen. There were, and they started to notice that traffic began to slow because they could see that the plane was about to crash. We do have witnesses who say they saw people injured on the ground. We do not have confirmation of how many people were injured on the ground. We just know of multiple trauma patients being taken to the hospital, and so the 405 now is just a mess. But what the two patients with critical traumatic injuries were at OC Global Med, but they also, OC Global Med also said they had multiple trauma patients coming. So 2 on the plane, potentially some on the ground. And when you see that new video
we know of, we are efforting phone calls to the hospital and to different offices to find out about possible additional injuries or any fatalities.
One thing to think about, you know, again, now that we have the incident itself at least in a static state right now, you notice that FAA investigators are going to be coming to this site to look at this. Here's one thing that is, I think, right now the focus for many people. Here it is, 10:45 in the morning. If you have a plane flight for the 4th of July after work later today, if you may be going to 5 or 6 o'clock this evening, maybe your plane is later, you will be affected by this. You need to start making plans now as to what you're going to do. Our thoughts, our prayers are with those immediately impacted by this accident, the injured, but for those now affected by what's happened here this afternoon, you can't imagine that this is going to be cleared quickly. It's just not. This is the 405 South at MacArthur, and it is going to be a mess, and it's going to have a trickle-down effect. It's going to start affecting roads on the side.
Yes.
The 55, you heard Bree talking about the 55 southbound. The transition road is closed.
Yes.
It's going to be a mess all day.
It certainly is. It brings to mind the crash a few months ago that we experienced here in the Glendale area of the 5 freeway, that big rig crash that was fatal. And it was just a similar situation, and the backups creeped out onto the surface streets, and the freeway and surface streets traffic was a mess for hours after that. So this is sort of as a reminder of that. We also have this plane, as you see it right here, the Cessna 310, the wreckage. This is a shot of that exact plane.
Wow.
Before the crash. So you can see how that plane looked, the 2 propellers on either side, twin engine plane, the pilot, a person in the front, and then 4 additional seats in the back. This is that exact plane. You see many of them flying around here, and it's a popular plane, I would think, as we heard from Omar, although it is an older plane. But we saw that video of the plane making a left-hand bank, and then you could see just very briefly, a split second, the pilot trying to bring the nose up and level that plane off as he was attempting to land on the freeway.
It's just something else to see and hear. We're also hearing more from those who are on scene trying to take care of this and get things back to normal. You see the wreckage. It's just, I'm struck by the fact that it's bent, not just wrecked, but bent as well. Captain Larry Kurtz of the Orange County Fire Authority is going to join us here, and he is ready to chat with us a little bit. And Captain, if you can give us your perspective, what are you seeing, and what is the latest from OCFA?
Good morning. Obviously, down here on the southbound 405, we did have a plane crash on the southbound 405 while it was on landing to John Wayne Airport. The plane was known as a Cessna 310, twin-engine airplane, mostly for recreational use. There were 2 passengers at the plane at the time of crash, 1 male, 1 female. Both were extracted from the plane and are currently en route to local area trauma centers for treatment.
Did we have any injuries on the ground?
There were no injuries on the ground. The plane did clip a single vehicle upon the landing, but the damage was very minimal and the driver was uninjured.
Do you, from your experience with the Orange County Fire Authority, I can't imagine 2 people surviving that. You're landing on a freeway, not just some freeway, the 405. What is your personal take that this is the level of injuries that we're talking about?
Well, you know as well as I do about the traffic situation on the 405, no matter where you are in Southern California. The fact that we had a plane that landed. As far as the nature of the injuries to the pilot and the passenger, yes, they are traumatic injuries, but they're being taken to one of the local area trauma centers, and they're going to get the best treatment possible. For now, the southbound 405 is down to a single lane in the carpool lane. We're going to try and open up more lanes, but for now, the plane's going to be staying here until members of the NTSB, FAA, and John Wayne Airport can get on site to examine the wreckage and start their investigation of the crash.
Captain Kurtz, how long do you think it will be before the NTSB and FAA get on scene, and how long do you think it will be before this is cleared and things could possibly be back to normal?
It may be a while, as I'm sure your helicopter is showing. There's a big traffic backup. and getting all investigators on site is going to take a little bit of time. Plus, the investigative process, they have to take their time, make sure they do it accurately.
So when you say a while, what are you talking about?
It will probably be several hours before this freeway is completely open again.
Yeah, and I keep thinking of people trying to get in and out 4th of July weekend to that airport. Maybe they're going somewhere else. This is going to affect everybody for the afternoon. Do you not? I mean, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. I was talking to the director of the John Wayne Airport, and he wants me to pass on to everyone that John Wayne Airport is still open. So for anyone who has flights coming out of John Wayne Airport or coming into John Wayne Airport, do give yourselves a couple extra hours of time to get to the airport.
Captain, we had understood that arrivals had been canceled to John Wayne Airport. You have other information then? Had you heard that?
No, I do not have information on that, but I heard from the director himself that John Wayne Airport is open. As far as the departures and arrivals, whether they've altered that policy with planes coming and going, you'll have to get with John Wayne Airport officials about that.
And you heard that recently?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we do know that we have been reporting that departing flights are not affected. We had only heard that currently closed to arrivals, but I think it probably best, from your advice, call the airport, call your airline, based on what you're seeing, because it certainly could change.
And Captain, we are watching this live video of firefighters putting foam onto the plane. Can you explain that process to us?
Yeah, the foam, what it does is it actually is for the fuel that's leaking out of the plane. Jet plane is very similar to gasoline, is that it has flammable vapors on it. What the foam does, it creates a blanket on top and keeps those vapors to a minimum, so we don't accidentally have a...
And I would assume, since there was some sort of emergency on takeoff, even though they might, we don't know where they were bound, it would likely have, if not a full tank of gas, it certainly would have more gas than if it was coming in for landing. So that would be something you need to address?
Yes, it would. From what I understand, the plane was coming in for a landing when this malfunction occurred.
Okay, so the plane was coming in for a landing, it was not taking off?
That is correct.
Coming in for a landing where?
Coming in from a landing over the top of the freeway. And as you were mentioning earlier that there were no arrivals coming into the airport, I just saw a Learjet land over the top of here.
Okay. That's good to know. But your phone broke up just a little bit there, Captain, but basically I heard you say he saw a Learjet come in for a landing at John Wayne. So as this is a very fluid situation, things will change. Right now, it does appear that John Wayne Airport is now open to arrivals. We've known for a long time that departing flights are not affected. So he said he saw a plane coming in for a landing there.
Okay, and that plane was coming in for a landing itself when it crashed?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Wow. Captain Larry Kurtz of the Orange County Fire Authority, thank you very much for joining us and giving us a kind of a perspective as to what we're looking at here. One of the things that the captain was just telling us now, you saw firefighters live from Air 7 HD a moment ago as they were spraying foam on that, and you might wonder why. He was saying that the fumes themselves, which are certainly flammable, that plane had fuel in the tank. Those the fuel has leaked out due to the crash. That meant the air around it was filled with fumes due to the plane crash. They're putting that foam on top of to kind of knock that stuff down and make it less flammable.
Right.
Air 7 HD, we do not have a reporter in there, but we do have our camera in there. And what I'd like to do is if we could pan in the direction of the closed southbound freeway just to show folks the backup. Because Captain Kurtz had said there's going to be a lot of traffic here. Just to give you an idea, if we can pan and give folks an idea as to the backup on the southbound 405. This is what you're dealing with. This is also the 55 transition that is closed right now because there's no reason to transition onto the 405 south. That is what you're dealing with. Everybody who has traveled that road, and many people do, the 405 at MacArthur, that is the accident. Probably what's happening at that location is people are being taken off the freeway. So you can notice that the closure is going to be back. They're going to start taking people off the freeway, and they're going to have to get onto surface streets and get around. So now we're going to try to worry about how do we get those people, there's a traffic break. how do we get these folks off the freeway who are right behind the accident? And that might be a difficult task. At some point, we've seen them turn people around and head north on the closed freeway just to get them near an exit.
And that's what authorities are worried about now, and they are mapping it out as we see it. I wonder what that cross street was, or that exit was. Here we go. We can see a sky map 7. That is Bristol.
Green.
That's
looks
Bristol.
like Park Center
one
Drive.
before.
And Yellowstone Drive is where you're starting to get people off of the freeway. You're not going to be letting them on.
Yeah.
Bristol, Bear Street. Now then you're going to have the area where people are getting caught up in a traffic break. But the 405 is going to be affected significantly further north.
It certainly is, and for hours. And the arteries, actually the surface streets surrounding this freeway are the ones that are going to get filled up and clogged over the next several hours as people try to get around this area, try to get to the airport, which, as we understand, is open. Arrivals and departures at John Wayne Airport, they are open, but certainly give a call to the airport if you have to be in that area, if you have to go to the airport. Please give them a call to check out any updates that they may have.
And as we said, as we heard from Captain Kurtz before, he even called it somewhat of a miracle that only one car was clipped. We actually had a witness to the accident who saw the plane come down, Gabrielle, who was still emotional having seen it. She said that she saw the plane hit that one car, but that car just pulled over to the side of the road as if they'd been involved in some sort of traffic accident on the freeway. But we saw another person, Cassie, who said that she saw it about to happen and noticed that it might have been Gabrielle as well that told us this. She saw people begin to slow down. Yeah. So if we can, we're going to show you this accident again, this plane crash again. We have video of the actual crash. But you can imagine people saw it coming. Somebody actually saw it. Jose Quintero saw it to the point where he was able to get a camera out and take video of it. So that allowed people to start to slow down.
Right, and it's credible that it only clipped one car, and that person was not injured.
The injuries are on the plane. We heard from Captain Kurtz, and he said that only 2 people were injured, but they are critical, traumatic injuries. He did not want to speculate on prognosis, but said they are going to be getting excellent care at a local trauma center, and that is OC Global Medical Center. They were taken, and they will be getting excellent care, and we will hope for the best for them. Yeah,
as we take a live look and continue watching this, the area surrounding the plane is sprayed with foam because of the fuel, the jet fuel that was on that plane and spilled onto that side of the freeway, and they are waiting there for NTSB, for FAA to arrive on scene to investigate all the points and elements of this crash. And you see on the right-hand side, this was immediately after the plane crashed, that thick black smoke emanating from the freeway. And then on the left-hand side, another perspective, another vantage point we see with hashtag plane crash, people sending in with their cell phone videos as they were able to capture the moments of this crash and immediately after the crash.
Well, you have been watching special coverage of this accident, this breaking news, but now we are moving into the 11 a.m. hour. So this will be Eyewitness News at 11 a.m. Along with Leslie Sykes, I'm Philip Palmer, and the story of this hour and this moment and this morning as we head into the 4th of July holiday is that there has been a small plane crash on the 405 freeway. The 405 southbound at this moment is closed. You're going to have to get off the freeway if you're going 405 south anywhere near MacArthur. They're going to try to get you off and to get on the surface streets. Northbound, as you can see here, is open, but it is going to be very slow as you see one car, one big rig right there, start to get by in what appears to be the carpool lane. So this is breaking news. You might be seeing some of these cars finally starting to get by. That does not mean that the freeway is open. That might just simply be trying to get some of those people off the freeway there. But this is Eyewitness.
Palmer, as you know, and as you can see, if we can reset it here, you are looking at the 405 freeway in Santa Ana near John Wayne Airport, where a Cessna A Cessna 310 has crashed right there on the freeway. At least 2 people were inside. 2 people only that we know were passengers in the plane, a man and a woman. They have suffered traumatic injuries. They have been transported to OC Global Medical Center. The plane clipped a car on one side of the freeway, and now that plane is surrounded by the foam that is taking up that fuel and soaking that up so that there is not another fire on the freeway.
An eyewitness sent in video of the moment the plane crashed, and you can hear the intense impact in the video we're about to show you. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to bring Brandy Hitt in us and with us. We have some of the eyewitness accounts, the harrowing stories being told right now. So many people watch this all unfold, Brandy.
Yeah, and you just can't imagine actually seeing this kind of crash in person, Philip and Leslie, but this is the aftermath. Think about this, being on that freeway, packed with drivers at the moment, watching that plane go down. And Gabrielle Child was one of the people actually there on the freeway. She says that she not only saw this crash, she also saw the occupants inside the crash. So this is the aftermath. She watched it all happen in front of her, and then she decided to pull over like so many others did about an hour or 2 ago and decided to get out of the car. We're going to hear from Gabrielle. This is the aftermath again. You can see the flames there on the side of the freeway, the 405. According to Gabrielle and other eyewitnesses, that plane came down, actually hit that middle barrier. Part of the plane exploded in flames on one side of the 405 freeway, and then the other side, the other half of the plane, actually the flames were shooting onto the other side of the freeway. So the entire 405 came to a complete standstill. And again, we're just hearing from more eyewitnesses who were there at the scene, who stopped and pulled over to watch this all unfold.
I actually witnessed the plane. We noticed that it was coming down, and we noticed that it wasn't going to, the plane wasn't going to make it back to the airport. Everyone started slowing down on the freeway, and it hit the northbound side and bounced into the southbound side and burst into flames immediately. A gentleman and I got out and immediately ran across the street. We saw a lady, an older lady, pull someone out of the plane, and she had been in the plane, and it was her and her husband, and they both are alive, talking. She kept telling me, "It's just me and my husband. It's just me and my husband."
How serious were they injured? Could you tell?
A gentleman. They were injured. We were waiting for they were laying on the ground, clearly covered in blood.
Okay.
But they were speaking to us.
Now, both Gabrielle and the other drivers that we've spoken to tell site to actually see this in person, and also unbelievable to see how many people stopped on the freeway, got out of their cars. Some didn't know what to do. Do you run towards the flaming plane? Do you wait for paramedics on scene? Some bystanders could not just sit back and wait. Witnesses say they saw people rushing in to try and help. Again, that is the moment the plane ended up crashing there on the 405 freeway that everyone saw unfold. I don't know if we have the sound of the other people who actually rushed in to help, but we were told that one gentleman watched somebody put the car in reverse. They had stopped on the freeway, went back, and they disappeared into the flames at one point. And some witnesses were frightened and wondering if that person was going to come out okay. But as we just heard, in fact, here's that moment. Let's listen to that.
Most of the people were getting out of their cars, running to the scene. You know, I know one guy ran back to his car to grab a bottle of water. Someone needed water. So they were doing everything that they could to help the people that were hurt.
There was one gentleman specifically that we saw reverse his car, tried to run like almost into the he was the first one, almost run like into the burning plane, and everyone was like, oh, it was absolutely horrible.
Just so many heroic actions from strangers not knowing there what was going to happen in front of them, if that plane could have possibly exploded again because of fuel on the scene. not knowing what they could have happened next. They put their lives on the line too, but good news to report, as we've been hearing so far within the last hour, it appears the people inside the plane are the only ones surprisingly hurt, Philip and Leslie.
Yes, Brandy, thank you so much for that. And speaking of those two people, we do have Jeff Corliss on the phone for us. Jeff is from OC Global Medical Center, Orange County Global Medical Center. We understand that at least 2 patients were taken to your medical center. Jeff, what can you tell us?
Yeah, I can confirm that we have received multiple trauma patients at Orange County Global Medical Center. And I would also say that we are the closest trauma center to the John Wayne Airport. It's pretty likely that these types of patients, with injuries that patients might have in a situation like this would end up in our trauma center.
Jeff, you said multiple patients, but we heard from OC Fire that there were just the 2 injured from the plane. Do you have more injuries than just the 2?
You know, we get traumas, as you can imagine, sometimes on an hourly basis and even more. I can't confirm the number at this time due to HIPAA regulations, but I can confirm that multiple patients were brought to our trauma center.
Okay, so, but you do not know, or you cannot tell us at this point if anybody was injured on the ground as a result of this?
I can't confirm any specifics about patients that might have come from
There, you can confirm that they are being treated. Can you tell us, are they in surgery or anything?
Yeah, I don't have that information at this time, and as we're able to release additional details, we look forward to doing that once we have appropriate authorization to do so.
Okay. Jeff, thank you very much. That's Jeff Corliss from OC Global Medical Center, the trauma center that has been treating the patients that have come from this, but clearly in
back out the lobby that would be able to entertain individual questions or issues you might have with FEMA, including national flood insurance. As well as
WT back there. Who's that closest here?
So we'll have those folks in the back during that time. But I just want to take the opportunity to make sure that you're ready for hurricane season. We have a website called ready.gov, and GoSep also has one called Get a Game Plan that you can use to get yourself ready for hurricane season. We already had Tropical Storm Cindy. We weathered that storm, but hurricane season is
airport where that Cessna was apparently heading when it made that emergency declaration. Of course, it did not make it there. Talked to one witness, and he tells me that he saw the plane going down. He was on the 405, and he was with his family, saw it clip the median, and then go down, and he barely just avoided hitting it himself with his family in the car. Very scary situation for a lot of people who were on the roadway and witnessed this plane going down. Now, airport traffic into John Wayne Airport has now resumed. We've been seeing, the commercial airliners along with those smaller prop engines definitely landing and taking off while the investigation is all going on. Traffic definitely going to be a nightmare for anyone that is trying to travel out of John Wayne Airport this afternoon. So definitely leave early. Traffic heavily impacted. I can't state this enough, just how bad the 405 southbound lanes look right now. The northbound lanes seem to be traveling okay. Of course, there's a traffic backup on the northbound lanes as well, just because you have the looky-loo factor with people trying to get a glance at what they can see down there. But right now, as you can see, definitely a big emergency response. They still have fire on scene. They're definitely going to have the FAA and NTSB investigators out there taking a look at exactly what brought this plane down. We're going to continue out here. We're also here with a lot of people who have come from their offices to where they're now standing out here earlier just taking pictures of what they're seeing too. One guy told me he saw us. Back to you in studio.
Okay, Leticia, thank you very much. And Leticia talked about the traffic in the area, southbound shut down, northbound messed up. It's not just the looky-loos, quite frankly. There are lane closures still in the northbound side because part of the investigation is going to include the northbound side. You see that the CHP is right there. You see a lot of personnel there on the freeway. So they've lost, it looks like, the carpool lane and one lane there on the northbound side. So northbound is affected. Southbound is just pretty much closed, except it does appear as if the people in the immediate aftermath of this are now starting to at least get off of the freeway. That was one of the things we noticed. Further north on the southbound side, they were let it down to let people get off of the freeway. But these people right next to or closest to the accident were still just stuck there. They couldn't go anywhere.
Yeah,
now
so
you see they're getting them off of the freeway, but you still have all of these people that have nowhere to go. So they're at least starting to get them off of the freeway.
They're inching off. They do have some movement there. And you can imagine you had numerous emergency responders headed to this scene. They are used to doing this every day, but certainly this is a big event. We're going to hear from a few right now.
The aircraft is on the freeway at this time. It's on the southbound 405, just on the approach to 20 right. The traffic has stopped on the 405, and there is fire showing at this time.
All right, that was one of the emergency responders, and you can see on the left-hand side, you see that man running toward the scene, running in to help like several people did, and they were able to get those two passengers out. It did not appear, we saw a stretcher to the get out of that cockpit and get out of that plane, and they had some traumatic injuries, we are told. They have traumatic injuries, and they are being treated right now at OC Global Medical Center.
And one of the things John Nance, aviation expert for ABC, has told us is, because we were struck by the fact that how could anybody survive this due to the flames, the fire that we saw, the wreckage, and you can see the wreckage there live. It just, you wonder, how do you survive? Especially, you heard that the woman pulled her husband, the man she said was her husband, from the crash. Other people then came in and assisted. Kudos to that young man in the black T-shirt that we saw running in the direction of the fire to do what he could. But John Nance explained to us that the fuel in this Cessna 310 is probably tip tanks, so they're out on the ends of the wings, and that's where the fuel was. And if you notice, when it made impact, that's when the first explosion happened, and so it's likely the fuel from that wingtip tank, that's what was burning. He got the plane on the freeway, and it looked horrific, but the cabin itself seemed to be intact enough that the people were able to get out of the cabin before the fire engulfed the cabin.
That's right.
And that is due to the quick action of the people that were on site there.
So
civilians, people just coming in and putting themselves at risk to save those people.
Yeah, so as the plane was engulfed, those wings were engulfed, but it would take moments before it could actually get to the body. Split-second, life-saving moments. They were able to climb out of that plane, and they are now being treated at the hospital. They are being taken care of. But let's take another look at the actual crash from some video.
And you see the fire we're talking about, and clearly that's fuel burning on the freeway there, because probably what happened was the tanks, which again the FAA is now confirming what one of the witnesses told us from the very beginning, that the plane had departed from John Wayne Airport. So that would mean there was more fuel in those tanks, but there was a declared emergency right after takeoff, according to the FAA. So they were trying to get back to the airport. That's when the crash occurred. So the likelihood of a full fuel tank on takeoff, that led to a lot of burning substance there. But again, you could see the trail of fuel that was burning on the freeway. You can see the blackened areas where the plane, basically bounced. It affected the north and the southbound side of the freeway. That was from witnesses. And again, just somewhat miraculous that only a car on the 405, only one car was clipped a little bit, and that person was okay.
And I wonder, was this a sort of a regular flight that the pilot was taking? Because we have records that show that the last time the plane flew was yesterday from John Wayne to Ontario back to John Wayne. So again,
it could be a holiday weekend.
It could be. And we know that taking off and landing are the two most dangerous times for crashes to happen in an airplane. And so this pilot got into some trouble, tried to turn it around, tried to get back to the runway, was not able to make it, and tried to put that plane right down there on the freeway, and miraculously did not hit several cars on the freeway.
That plane you see in the image there on the left is the plane that crashed. Clearly that is a picture taken at another time. We had from John Nance that it looked as if there was an engine stall. He was not positive. He had seen it video. And one of the things that strikes you about how close they are to the airport is the shadow of the plane crossing over the wreckage. You see those planes coming in for a landing, and that is something also that we want to point out, that John Wayne Airport is open for business right now, arrivals and departures. Bree, it's going to be difficult to get in and out of that airport, and it's going to be that way all afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, of course, we've got a full freeway closure on that southbound 405 side. They are encouraging everyone to take side streets. So if you have Waze, you can use your Waze to find out real-time driving conditions on those side streets. It looks like the 73 is actually open, so you might want to take that. We also have Airport Way, MacArthur Boulevard, of course, not your best bet from that 405, because we do have that full freeway closure. And the 55, it looks like conditions are improving, but you might want to avoid that area altogether. If you are coming maybe from the northbound side, maybe take Fairview Road instead. That might be your best bet. Get off well before you hit that 73. And also the traffic on that northbound side, it's backed up all the way to Jamboree Boulevard. So something to keep in mind. I also just got off the phone with the National Weather Service down in San Diego. They are the ones in charge of Orange County. And I talked to Miguel. He is in charge of aviation right now for this shift, and he said that at right around 9:44, the observation right before, or right after rather, this incident, we did have overcast skies. We do have that marine layer overhead, but it's a very thin cloud deck, because we were wondering, weather could have played a role in this, and it just doesn't seem like that would be the case, because that cloud deck is only about 400 feet deep, so that was not a major factor. Also, the wind's not a major factor as well, only about 3 knots. So it doesn't look like you can blame this, of course, on weather, but the airport is still open. So if you are heading in that direction, you know, of course, this is a very busy holiday weekend. You definitely want to take those side streets around the area. You want to avoid that 405 southbound altogether at MacArthur. Back to you.
All right, Bree, and this would point to possibly maybe mechanical error or pilot error. We are not sure yet and have no idea, but we know that FAA and NTSB will be investigating. They are headed to the scene, and they will get to the bottom of all that and have an exact cause of this plane crash. But we heard earlier from an eyewitness, but we couldn't hear his audio in the beginning of what he was saying. So let's go back to this gentleman and hear what he said. He saw it.
I was struck by this Cessna or light plane or whatever it is by the rear end of my truck. Was spun around, had a passenger in there, saw flames all around us. Thought at first it was just a big rig that had hit us, and essentially just trying to regain control of my vehicle. At the end of that, checked my passenger, made sure he was okay, and gave each other a hug that we were still alive.
So that's not just the witness. That's the guy that got hit by the plane.
Yeah.
So
I'm glad we played that again.
Yeah, we're glad we were able to hear the beginning of that, because remember, one of the things we heard was that only one vehicle, and he was just clipped, and his description was exactly what the witnesses told us. He pulled over to the side of the road and then got out. So he thought a big rig had hit him.
Right, and he looked to be in perfect condition. So this was the man who was driving the car that was clipped by the plane when it first went down, and then it jumped over the center divider and full-on crashed on that southbound side. And you see the remnants right there. Amazing.
Well, one of the things that we've seen is immediate reaction on social media. So many people posting images. You see this baby girl on the left there, posted to Twitter immediate after the fact. You see Deborah Mitchell, and there on the right you see so many people that saw the smoke. Cameras in hand. People who work near that area were also taking a lot of images very quickly, posting images of the plane crash. I mean, how often do you see a plane crash on a freeway? I mean, we sometimes go, hey, look at this great landing of a person who got on the freeway. This affected so many people so quickly right there down in 405 at MacArthur. North and southbound lanes are affected. The airport is right there, so people have been going through there. So a lot of social media interaction. But again, one of the most amazing things about this is that the two people that were on the plane were pulled from the wreckage. They have been transported and they are being treated for critical traumatic injuries. But at this point, have survived the accident.
And that is incredible. You can only imagine what was going through the pilot's mind when he took off and then learned that there was an emergency, and just the quick thinking and the adrenaline to try and find a place to land. He decided not to continue and to try to turn back around, make a U-turn. He was trying to do what this plane we see live right here coming in to the airport, going onto that runway. That was what he was probably wanting to do in the beginning. He realized that he didn't have the altitude, he didn't have the power, and so he then decided to set it down right here on the freeway, and that's what happened, and then he went up in flames.
It was interesting to listen to John Nance, the ABC expert, talk about how in that moment you're just trying to get the plane on the ground, because I had asked him why not try for the grass on the other side, because I felt, okay, maybe that's a softer place to land. But he said you can't really focus at times on some other things. You've got a mechanical emergency. You are hyper-focused on getting the plane on the ground. We also talked to a flight instructor who said he felt like it looked as if the pilot was trying as he could to avoid any cars on the ground. It did look from our video as if at the last moment he tried to what they called flare the nose so that he could get the nose up and not go straight into the ground. That would have been catastrophic. But the pilot's actions seemed to be everything he could do to protect life on the ground and try to survive the crash at the same time. And then again, kudos to, I don't know who he is, but the young man in the black T-shirt who was seen by witnesses and by us running along the side of the freeway in the direction of the plane to try and do what he could.
And some people do have that presence of mind when something happens. They switch into gear and they are immediately running toward a catastrophe to try to help. Other people are sitting there in their cars. They're stunned. They don't know what to do. You don't really know what happened. But that man was on his way to try to get help.
Right
there he is, right there.
On the left. Let's go to Leticia Juarez. She is very near the accident crash site and see how things are shaping up from her perspective. Leticia?
Well, I'm here just along the southbound lanes, just on the other side of the freeway. And just down the way, you can kind of see what is going on here. You see a big emergency response. You got fire department, ambulance. You have Caltrans here on scene. They're all over at that Cessna that went down earlier this morning. You can't really see the Cessna from our vantage point, but Air 7, I'm sure, is getting some pretty good shots of what it looks like there on the ground as they're assessing the situation here. The southbound lanes obviously very backed up, and that's not boding well for anyone that has to get to John Wayne Airport, because this all happened just at the MacArthur Boulevard John Wayne Airport exit. So anyone trying to get to the airport on the southbound 405 is pretty much out of luck right now. They're directing traffic obviously around this. Traffic has gone down from just about 2 lanes down to 1 lane around this. 405 looks pretty open on the northbound lanes, but of course you have the looky-loo factor with people slowing down there to also take a look. Right now they're assessing the situation here on the ground, taking a look at not just the plane, but obviously going to have to take a look at the freeway itself, assessing what they're going to have to do to make any repairs to the ground there as well. I do want to show you that John Wayne Airport is reopened to takeoffs and landings. They are allowing their small aircraft and their commercial airliners to come in and land. Now, this is what that Cessna was trying to do when it obviously went down. According to a witness who spoke to, that Cessna was attempting to go down when it hit the median that separates the northbound and southbound lanes before it crash landed into the southbound lanes, nicking another vehicle in the process. This man telling me that he and his family were in the car when he saw this happen. He had to slow down, he said, just to avoid it hitting it himself. Very scary situation for him. And if you're taking a look down there, you can see that that plane was trying to get to the other side of this hedge that you see there onto just that runway that is John Wayne International Airport. Obviously did not make it, crash landed into the southbound lanes where there is a heavy, still a heavy presence of emergency responders. They have taken the pilot and his passenger, as you've been saying, to the hospital with some injuries. We still don't know exactly what their condition is right now. My colleague Greg Lee is going to be on scene shortly as well with some updates from on the freeway. Hopefully we'll hear from him and we'll get a better idea of what it looks like just closer to the scene over there. Again, we do have Air 7 over here that is taking some pretty good ground shots to kind of check out and see. They have FAA and they also have NTSB investigators. If they're not already on scene, they're definitely going to be here shortly to begin their investigation into exactly what that emergency that brought that plane down was. I'm going to throw it back to you in studio for now.
All right, Leticia Juarez, thank you very much from her vantage point on the ground. We also have another reporter headed there on the ground to give us more from that area to see exactly what is going on. But you see the wreckage, which is pristine at this point. They are keeping it very clear so that NTSB and FAA investigators can get there and sort through everything, get all the clues that they need to find out exactly what happened. In the meantime, the backup that you see.
Well, and also we're getting reports John Wayne Airport officials will also be investigating. So you're going to have a multi-agency investigation, and at some point they're going to have to remove the wreckage. So that's why we keep harping on the idea that if you have to go to the airport or if you're going anywhere that requires you to go through Santa Ana or any of the surrounding cities on the 405 southbound, you need to make alternate plans, because that plane wreckage is going to be there throughout the afternoon because of the intensity of this investigation. You're talking about a plane that crash landed on the 405. We've been on the air with us a little while, and so maybe people are beginning to get a little numb to what has happened. But that's what has happened. A plane has crashed on the 405. So this will be a long playing investigation. What was taking off that has now come out of the plane. We talked with John Nance, who had told us that what basically happened, all of that fuel that didn't catch on fire but was continuing to leak from on the freeway, and the fumes themselves are flammable. So we saw as fire officials were throwing foam on the plane well after the fire was out, and he was saying that was to reduce the danger level of those fumes that were coming off of all that fuel that was still on the road. And they have to clean that up.
Yes,
they have to clean the fuel up. They have to clean the wreckage up, so they're not going to be able to open this freeway for some time.
Yes, and you see firefighters there standing nearby and just watching the scene and waiting there. If you're just joining us, we want to get you caught up on what has happened. As Philip said, a plane has crash landed on the 405 freeway. This is in Orange County, the southbound side at MacArthur Boulevard. This plane first touched down on the northbound side. You can see that little darkened area that we're zooming into. First touchdown right there. You can see it coned off, and some of the debris from the plane, 2 pieces on the northbound side of the freeway, and then crossed over onto the southbound side where it crash landed and erupted into flames. 2 passengers on board. We believe they are husband and wife. They were transported to the hospital with traumatic injuries, Orange County Global Medical Center. The plane, as it first touched down, it did clip a car. We talked to that eyewitness, that person who was in the car, the driver of the car, who thought that a big rig had run into his car. He turned around and figured out that it was a plane that had hit his car. He checked and saw that his passengers were okay. He was not injured, and he luckily walked away from that. And then that is the first time that the plane hit the ground and then crossed over and then crash landed right there.
We've heard so many eyewitness accounts. As you, again, want to point out, John Wayne Airport's still open for business. They reopened all activity. You see planes coming in. They're throwing a shadow across the wreckage of that plane. But we've heard so many eyewitnesses that have, and experts who've given us a really good indication as to what had happened. And most of those eyewitness accounts have subsequently been verified by the officials. The FAA, subsequent to one of the witnesses, they have told us that the plane had departed at first, declared an emergency. We are working to get audio of the Mayday call that we do have now. So let's let you hear the Mayday call. The pilot had departed from John Wayne Airport and declared an emergency shortly after taking off.
Your gear appears to be up for 297.
Yeah, I know. We're still trying to get a little altitude. I'll put it down when I get the final. 297. I lost my right engine. Oh, hey, we got a Mayday. We got a Mayday. 297. Mayday. Mayday.
207 case request. Twin Coast 207 request.
Okay.
I make it back to the airport. 297.
207. Roger. Right traffic. Choose right. You clear to land.
You heard him say he lost his right engine. That was what John Nance was wondering. He said he couldn't tell if he'd lost both, but you heard him say he lost his right engine. You heard him say he had an emergency. What was it? He was trying to get back to the airport. It's amazing how all of them were so calm.
Right, and that's how they are trained to be. But let's hear it. Let's listen to it one more time, very carefully. Let's listen.
Your gear appears to be up for 297.
Yeah, I know. We're still trying to get a little altitude. I'll put it down when I get the final. 297. I lost my right engine. Oh, hey, we got a Mayday. We got a Mayday. 297. Mayday. Mayday.
207 case request. Twin Coast 207 request.
I make it back to the airport. 297.
207. Roger. Right traffic. Choose right. You clear to land.
Okay. So they cleared him to land, but that was a little late at that point. A couple of notes that I'm getting, and I'm glad we were able to listen to that again. Air traffic was trying to alert him that your gear's up. So he had taken off, and his gear was up. So the wheels were up, and they were trying to get the wheels down to land. But whatever was happening in that cockpit was such an emergency. He wasn't worried about, I'll get the gears down when I get to the airport.
Right.
So he had lost his right engine enough after takeoff that he was able to turn around and get back. So he never had chance. He didn't have a chance to get the gear, the landing gear down to get to the airport because he didn't know if he was going to make it.
Right, and that's what they were telling him in very calm tones, as they are used to doing in emergency situations like this, to try to keep him calm. But it was just a very short message, and he was responding saying that, yeah, I'll get to that right after I do this, and then moments later he's calling Mayday, Mayday, and then that was it.
The images of this crash are one thing, but I've been struck by the things we've heard. The accident that we saw, you could hear the glass breaking. You could hear the impact when we had a witness that took video of the accident, and now here we are able to hear the Mayday call from the pilot, and you hear from the tower telling him, hey, your gear's still up, and he says, I know, I kind of lost my right engine. So the audio of this is what's been, and then you hear the emotion from the witnesses who saw people running in. The audio of this is what's putting chills up your spine.
And as it is happening, it really puts you in the middle of it. We've got Eyewitness News reporter Greg Lee, who is on the scene right now. Greg, where are you and what can you tell us?
Yeah, Philip, Leslie, we were actually on the 405 South on the shoulder here, and here's what I cannot stress enough to people, as we're just about a quarter mile, half a mile away from where that plane crashed against this 405 South, against the wall here. Stay off the 405 South if you can. It took us just about an hour and a half to go less than 2 miles, and things getting really congested down here by this MacArthur exit. You can see MacArthur Boulevard, John Wayne Airport. That's the main exit people use as they're getting off the 405 to go towards the airport. And again, we've been talking about it all afternoon and all throughout our coverage. Already a busy travel day before this long weekend, 4th of July, only made worse by this plane crash and all of the traffic we are seeing. We're hearing both directions of the 405 backed up 8 miles in either direction. We've been told by Orange County Fire that this is where this plane is going to live until investigators can really get a handle on what happened and what led to this plane hitting this 405 South. And like you've been talking about, the man and woman who are now in the hospital fighting for their injuries here. And obviously a very backed up scene here. We'll continue to bring you more details. We're hearing we will get more details during a news conference at 12:30 at the airport. We'll bring you as many details as we can, and we'll stay here as we continue to watch people kind of fight this traffic as that carpool lane is open, but it is offering little relief at this point. Reporting live from the 405, Greg Lee, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
All right, Greg, thank you very much. And you can see the 405 from his vantage point. It appears to be a parking lot there with all those vehicles. And you can see one line of traffic, one lane just slowly creeping by. They're able to kind of get those people out of there. They have been waiting since this started. Let's go on over to Bree Winkler. She's got more on the traffic in that area, which is sure to be congested. Bree.
Oh, absolutely. So as Greg just mentioned, you want to stay away from that 405 southbound if possible. But hey, if you're trying to head to John Wayne Airport because it's still open, I would suggest that you get off. If you are taking that 405 southbound, maybe you're coming from the South Bay, take the 73. The 73 is looking pretty good. Or you can get off at, I believe this is Harbor Boulevard, and then take Baker Street across. So if you are heading southbound to John Wayne Airport, that's your best bet. The 55 heading southbound, well, that is really tough too, so you're definitely going to need side streets. If you're taking the 405 northbound and you're trying to get to John Wayne Airport, well, it is backed up all the way to Jamboree. You definitely want to get off at Jamboree or Main Street and take side streets towards John Wayne. You can see the River of Red there going on that northbound side too. So this is area, if you don't have to be here, if you don't have to go to the airport, you probably just want to avoid it altogether. Or maybe you're trying to go down to San Diego. A lot of folks trying to head out of town this holiday weekend. 405 again. Not your best bet if you're trying to head southbound. You might want to take the 5 instead. There's other options for you too. Of course, you have the 5. You've got in the area, you've got the 241, or maybe even do the 91 to the 15 if you're really trying to get around that, scoot around that area. But the 405 southbound is going to be a really tough call. So definitely take the 5 southbound instead if you're trying to head to San Diego and if you're in that area. All right, we're going to send it back to you.
Okay, Bree, thank you very much. As you see those images on the right, we've talked about the people who have seen this. They've given us their eyewitness accounts. But again, we want to give you a second to hear and see what we've experienced this morning. That was
your
Jose.
gear appears to be up for 297.
Yeah, I know. We're still trying to get a little altitude. I'll put it down when I get to final. 297. I lost my right engine. Hey, we got a Mayday. We got a Mayday. 297. Mayday. Mayday.
207 K30 request. Twin Tulsa 207 30 request.
I make it back to the airport. 297.
207 Roger. Right traffic. Choose your right. You clear to land.
Okay, so yeah, what he says is, I'm still trying to get a little altitude when he says that when the other guy tells him that his gear is not down. Yeah, I know, I'm still trying to get a little altitude. And then he says, I lost my right engine, and then eventually Mayday, Mayday.
Jose Quinteros is the one that shot the video, and then the Mayday call is a different source, and then we put them together. But to see it, to hear it, and then to realize there were so many things going on in that cockpit, and then to realize one person was clipped on the freeway when he tried to land the plane, and you could see that he kind of flared up the nose at the last minute. At least it appeared that way to us as we looked at that video. He clipped that car. That person pulled over on the side of the road, having thought a big rig hit them, but everybody in the vehicle was okay. It now appears as if two people were hurt, and it was the two people on the plane.
Right. As far as we know, from a witness, it was a husband and a wife, and they were able to get out before the cockpit was fully engulfed. And you see the foam there. They were able to make it to the hospital, and they are being treated now for traumatic injuries. But as far as we know, they survived this crash, and it's simply amazing that that happened, and no one else on the freeway was injured or hurt.
We're going to come back on the air at 12:30. We heard Greg Lee a moment ago say that they're going to provide a briefing at 12:30 from John Wayne Airport. We're going to carry you to the top of the hour here with our coverage of this here on Eyewitness News at 11 a.m. We're going to completely cover this again back at 3 p.m. But we just wanted to let you know that at 12:30 p.m. we're going to have the briefing from the airport on the air here at ABC 7 and also online. If you happen to be television, we're also streaming it on Facebook and on our website as well. So you will be able to get all of the information as it comes in today, 12:30, and then again at 3 o'clock.
Right, and you should know that John Wayne Airport is open for both arrivals and departures. We know that arrivals were canceled for a short time in the beginning of this, but both arrivals and departures are working at John Wayne Airport, and we have seen planes, as we look live at the scene, fly right over the flight path, right over the freeway there to land at John Wayne Airport. We know that to be true. So if you are headed to the airport, please certainly call ahead. You may need to get there a little earlier. You certainly might need to leave your home a little earlier to try and traverse the traffic to get there. But that airport is fully operational.
Here's one of the things to also remember. Bree brought it up a moment ago. The 405 freeway, if you are planning on going to San Diego or if you are going out of town, just that should be off limits for you, unless your journey starts south of MacArthur. If you're south of there, you could probably take the 405 and then merge onto the 5. Go ahead and just find a way to get to the 5 freeway if you happen to be traveling to go down to San Diego for a vacation this weekend. Maybe if you're going north, you should just find a way to go ahead and get over to the 5 and go north. But go there understanding that everyone that knows of this accident is not going anywhere near the 405, and they're going to end up on the 5. Right. Or they're going to end up on some other north-south artery to get around this so that they're not there. So prepare for that. Maybe put off your travel plans until tomorrow morning if you have that as an option. If you're going to be commuting through this area, you see video there of one of the people being transported from that wreckage.
Yeah, we imagine that is the pilot. Because there were only 2 people transported, so we believe that was the pilot. He was able to get out of there along with his wife, and we heard from several eyewitnesses this morning. We even heard from the gentleman, the driver, whose car was clipped by that plane. Those people probably still there waiting for NTSB FAA investigators to take their statements as to what happened so that they can put all of the pieces of this together. Certainly, as you go in this area, the surface streets will be clogged up. Remember that. It's not just going to be the 405 freeway and the surrounding major arteries, but the little surface streets will have a lot of traffic in this area throughout the afternoon.
So we're going to wrap up here on Eyewitness News at 11 a.m. We hope your 4th of July weekend is eventful, but nothing like this. Again, the pilot and his passenger did survive. They are being treated for critical traumatic injuries. The 405 commute southbound and northbound at MacArthur is going to be an incredible mess. If you're traveling out of John Wayne Airport, be aware you will have delays through that area. But we hope you have a great weekend. This has been special coverage of this plane accident here on Eyewitness News.
Celebrate the year's most unforgettable moments in sports with the 25th ESPYs, July 12th on ABC 7. And we want to put you in the audience with the champions and heroes who inspire us all. For your chance to win, go to abc7.com now.
These guys have a shark plan.
Ollie alert. Nah. They get really, really close.
Next, right this minute.
Today at 1:30 on ABC 7.
After all the sprinklers and eating food with your fingers, your kids do something you never quite expect. They grow up. Savor every delicious moment. Budig, a family company.
Real members are saving real money on auto insurance through the Auto Club.
I was pretty shocked to find out that I was going to save $400. I thought that it was going to be much more expensive.
When you're trying to raise a family of 5, and in this economy, it's really nice to be able to save.
I would pay more for this level of customer service, but with AAA, I don't have to.
They told me what the price was going to be, and I told them to go back and recheck because I could not believe it.
Believe it. Switch your auto insurance and you could save an average of $396. That could be hundreds better than State Farm, Geico, even Allstate. And that's just the start.
I have my house insurance. I have my car insurance. It was a no-brainer for me to go with AAA.
Belong to an alumni association? Insure both your auto and home? You could save even more. Plus, get a $100 travel certificate when you switch. Best of all, get the service we're famous for and peace of mind.
I'm glad I switched. What are you waiting for?
Call 800-604-7892 for your free quote. The Auto Club. So easy, so smart, so switch.
Nothing compares to the natural beauty of solid wood. And Mathis Brothers has an incredible selection of the latest bedrooms for your home. This cottage-style bed, crafted in solid pine, is only $598. And this low-profile bed for only $6.
Okay. Tower TV5. TV5 when you're able. Hey there, I'd like to turn inbound for landing. Everyone's calling Atlantic. Is that over on the east side, the old Pad 3? Oh, okay. Can I get that middle one? They used to call that Pad 3 and the one with the blue roof over there. Do you have a frequency for these good folks? Thank you kindly. And ACI, good afternoon, Copter TV5. Hey, ACI, good morning. Copter TV5, I'd like to come inbound and get a Jet A negative top off. Clear to land, base over the taxiway, TV5, thank you, and will not overfly the southwest. ACI for TV5, do you have room on your ramp for a helicopter? Okay, fair enough. We'll be on the ground there in about 30 seconds. Okay, do you have a marshal out there? Do you want me to park anywhere? I'm in about 30 seconds or less. I appreciate it, thank you.